Hey everybody, Reef Girl here. A lot of you have seen my 29-gallon soft coral cube before, and I've been through a lot of ups and downs with this aquarium in the last several months, starting with rescaping, then fighting algae issues, getting back from vacation. And there's one thing I want to do to improve things just that little bit further. So to that end, I have acquired a reef glass skimmer. After seeing Scott at Mile High Reefer's review of the reef glass skimmer, it seemed to me that it might be exactly the right thing I needed to solve a problem with this tank, and that is the fact that I don't run a skimmer because I don't really have space for it. I have tried several skimmers and none of them worked, and they're in boxes in the basement. Right now I'm running a Philstar XPM canister on this tank, and I can't see any reason to change because it does a fantastic job keeping the water clean. I do maintenance on it about once every 5 to 6 weeks, and it works really well. But the problem is that it doesn't address suspended organic matter in the water, and we all know that the only way to really take care of that is either water changes or using a skimmer. You can see that film on the water, and that forms starting about 2 days after a water change. And what I've started doing when I do a water change is taking a plastic cup and sinking it down into the water so that only the water from the very surface flows in a little bit at a time into the cup. And it's surprising what a good job that does at removing this film from the top of the water. The problem is that it comes back almost immediately, and the only way to really address the dissolved organic solids in the water is a skimmer. So I decided to try the reef glass skimmer. I ordered one online from Premium Aquatics in the US and had it shipped to me here in Canada. Being in Canada, we're very used to things being extremely expensive to get here, and I will give you a breakdown of what those costs were a little bit later on in the video. One nice thing about this little tiny skimmer is that it is tiny. The footprint is only a couple of square inches. And that's important for this tank because I really don't have very much space. One of the problems I had with one of the several skimmers that I have in the basement is that they just didn't fit. And along this right hand side here, I have space for effectively 2 by 2 inches that this little reef glass skimmer takes up in space. But first I have to solve a problem, and that's the lid. So here's what we did to solve the problem of the lid. We removed the mesh lid and put some egg crate here instead. A couple of notches out of the back for the pumps and cords, and we're good to go. So let's take a look at what the total cost was to get this to me and ready to go. $237.35 Canadian. I do need to point out that of that total, $85 is for shipping and brokerage. It's a lot of money, but it's a reality that we face today in this hobby. If we want to try these products, we have to be prepared to spend to get them to us, especially in Canada because we don't have the same retail environment as there is in the United States or perhaps other parts of the world. So $237.35, that is more expensive than any of the skimmers I have in the box in my basement, but they're in the box in my basement because they didn't work. So I've assembled everything and I'm ready to start. Airlines connected, valves in place for airflow management in a convenient spot. I've installed the waste line, and this came with the skimmer. There's the bracket and the collection cup. I've decided to use 2 mason jars with 1 lid so it'll be easy to swap in and out when the time comes for cleaning. I installed the skimmer in my tank last night, so this is day 1. There's an O-ring that's supplied that goes around the skimmer, and it stops it from dropping through the bracket and allows the height to be adjusted. It's very easy to set up. I have a notch cut out of the lid to accommodate the position of the skimmer at the back here, so I guess that's where it's going to stay. And you can see the lines coming out of the stopper as I showed you in the assembly section of the video. This is the waste line, and it's hooked up to the mason jar collection cup. We drilled 2 holes in the lid, one for the hose, and we placed the fitting there, and the other hole is for air to escape. So that's all ready to go. One thing I'm not 100% sure of though is the level of the bubbles. I've tried to adjust them so that sometimes they touch the stopper but they're not in constant contact with it. I really don't know for sure where they should be, and I can't seem to find out anywhere. So we're going to go with this and just see what happens. And here we are at day 3. I messed around a bit more with the bubbles and they're looking good. And here is the skimmate. You can see there's a layer of a darker color on the top, and I'm thinking maybe it's starting to actually pull some crud out of the water. So there you go, day 3. This is day 11, and I don't know if the camera will pick it up very well, but you can see there really is starting to be an accumulation of brown crud at the top of the skimmer tube, and I think this is good. The other thing is we are starting to get some decent skimmate. It's not super dark. I would like it darker, but I'll take it. It's actually pulling stuff out, so if I can't have it as dark as this beast over here, which is going to get cleaned out as soon as I finish recording this, then at least it's doing something, and that shows in the skimmate that we have right there. So the protein skimmer has been in my tank now for 2 weeks, and you can see all of the brown crud that's built up in the top of the tube, and I'm starting to get a clue about how this thing is actually supposed to work. In the absence of any information anywhere about how this operates, what makes it a skimmer, my guess is that that's the stuff that needs to be cleaned out. That's kind of like the collection cup in a normal skimmer. So I'm thinking that's where the routine maintenance is going to be carried out, is right in the top of that tube. Don't mind my tank right now, it's super cloudy because I'm just getting ready for a water change. Down here we have some skimmate, and I'm thinking that's the byproduct of what the skimmer does. It's not the actual product of what the skimmer does. It's because the bubbles go up in the tube and they produce this liquid that has to escape somewhere, so this skimmate goes into your skimmate collection cup. But it's the tube itself that needs to be cleaned. So here we are at day 18, and look at how filthy that thing is. It is really, really gross. I was hoping to leave it for 3 weeks before cleaning it, but I'm starting to think that 2 weeks is probably about the right amount of time. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to pull that out of here and give it a good cleaning. Before we get to cleaning, here's the skimmate. It's not super dark, but it is pulling something, so that's good. So I've pulled the air fitting out of the top of the stopper, and I'm going to do my best not to mess around with rotating these valves. It took me a couple of days to get them set just right. So this tube lifts up really easily out of the bracket, and the O-ring comes along with it, and it's all put together. That air stone is on a tube in the center, and look at how dirty it is. It has really, really collected a lot of bad stuff out of the water. Here is the skimmer tube in my sink. I have it on a towel to protect it because it is glass and I don't want to accidentally damage it. The first thing to do is remove the rubber stopper, and it comes out as one unit with an acrylic tube and the air stone attached at the bottom. The air stone's a little bit dirty, easy to clean up with a toothbrush. I do apologize for the shadow puppet show. I didn't quite get the tripod adjusted properly. You can see how really dirty that tube is. So we'll give it a quick clean and see what comes out the other end. And it's back in its bracket, ready to turn on. All it takes is to plug in the air pump, and there it goes, running again. So in the end, total elapsed time to do that whole cleaning was around 10 minutes, which is less time than I would have expected, considering it had to be totally disassembled and scrubbed so hard to get all of that grunge off. It's a little more time than it takes to clean out a skimmer cup, but when you consider the maintenance that a skimmer requires with the pump and the skimmer neck and the chamber and all of that, this was compared really, really well to that. So in summary, pros and cons. Pros, tiny footprint of this skimmer. It is ideal for a sumpless tank, especially a nano. The price is under $100, including the pump that needs to go with it. It's very easy to clean. You can take it apart, clean it up, put it back together, no problem at all, and very quickly. On larger nanos, there's going to be minimal skim, which is good if you have soft corals in the tank because you do not want sterile water. So this works really well for that. On smaller nanos, there's a decent amount of skim. On the con side is that minimal skim. On a larger nano, say in the 40-gallon range, you'll probably see limited use from this, depending what your goal is. Secondly, it can be hard to control wet versus dry skim. It means fiddling with valves, and I'm still not 100% sure I've got mine set right, and every day I'm messing around with it. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but something to keep in mind if you think you should want to just set it and leave it alone. And then finally, hose management and equipment management outside the tank might be an issue if you have limited space. Mine is right out in the open. My corner of the dining room where that stuff is a big mess anyway, so it doesn't matter if it's unsightly. But if you like it neat and tidy, you're going to be looking for a solution to that. So overall, I give this many thumbs up for my particular situation. It was expensive, but hey, it's not going to end up in that box in the basement with all the others. So I'm thinking that makes it worthwhile. Thanks for watching.